goes a little something like.
Hi guys, if you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. My name is Emily and I do have fun sometimes. Today's video kind of came up on a whim. I came up with the idea on a whim because I realized I haven't told a story in a very long time, and I love telling stories and I definitely have plenty of them to go around. And there is one specific story that I just thought of because I was actually watching a story time on YouTube and I was like, and the girl was telling the story of how she got cheated on. Ma'am, I have a story that's one for the fucking books. Today I'm going to be telling the story about how I got cheated on with my cousin. It was the peak of my high school career, honestly. I think it definitely was. So in 2018, I had gotten out of a really bad relationship and I was in like a very kind of odd state at the end of 2018. I feel like I was in between wanting a relationship and not wanting one, and I had like a severe crush on this one dude, which I'm not going to talk about him because we don't like him. And I think at that point I was just trying to like fill a void that I had because I was just sad all the time. And like I said, 2018 was a really weird time for me. And I got in trouble a lot in the span of these few months, which was embarrassing, especially for this boy. Disgusting. Disgusting. I don't like it. Basically, if you don't know, I'm going to say it again because I said it in, I think, one of my last videos. High school 1 is the high school that I graduated at, and then high school 2 was the school that I went to my sophomore year. I went there for a year, I moved there at the end of my freshman year, and I went there all throughout my sophomore, and then I came back to high school 1 at the beginning of junior year. We had just moved back. My junior year had just started. It was around November time, so it was getting closer to like Christmas and everything. My old high school, so the one I had transferred from and went back to my original high school, was having like a football game. And I was like, all right, well, like I'm just gonna surprise my friends and go to this football game and just like not tell them I'm going, because I'm just cool like that. Like my friends are gonna fucking love me for this. So I decided to go. Hang on, I'm gonna like set this in a little bit more. I decided to go, and my best friend Kale took me, and he was graduated, so like he was like one person in Goldsboro who I knew would drive me back and forth. Love you, Kale. Sorry. He drove me to this football game, and like he hung out with his friends and I hung out with mine, and it was so funny because we had 2 separate friend groups, but like we were like this. My cousin was a cheerleader, and this kid that I'm about to tell you about, I think was on JV, the football team, but from what I remember while I knew him and like while we dated, he did not play football once. So my cousin, we're gonna name her Allie. My cousin Allie, she was a cheerleader, and the guy, we're gonna name him Cottage Cheese because y'all, when I tell you, I never saw this boy drink water. Like I never saw it. I'm sorry. Anyways, we're gonna name him Cottage Cheese because he sucked. And then at the time he was dating another girl, and we're gonna name her Sarah because why not? For the record, I am completely okay with Sarah and with Allie now. They are 2 of my hearts. I absolutely love them both. We just had a very, very rough patch during this like span of time. So basically, Sarah, Allie, and Cottage Cheese were all pretty close friends. Sarah and Cottage Cheese were dating at the time, and okay, I had heard of Cottage Cheese, but like I never like spoke to him, so it was kind of like okay. And then I ended up going to this football game, and that's where I had I think Allie introduced me to Sarah and Cottage Cheese because I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But she was cheering, so she went back, and I just hung out with Cottage Cheese and Sarah, and we were all hanging out having a blast, and like me and Cottage Cheese really hit it off. Like we were good friends. Like we were chilling, and I already loved Sarah, so like we all like hung out. We sat in his car for a little bit, and all was well. Well, I think I ended up somehow, I either got his number or I got his Snapchat. I think I got both. And it was all in a friendly way, and like this is one really big part of it that gets misconstrued. Me and him were strictly friends the entire time that him and Sarah were dating. Like we never said anything flirty to each other. We never crossed a line. Like we never did that. But it always got misconstrued because it looked bad. I'm going to be really honest, it looked bad. And maybe like some of the things in this time period, I do not agree with the way I handled it, but it is what it is. We grow and we learn. You know, we hit it off, and like he was just asking me questions. I was asking them questions because they hadn't been dating for very long. They had been dating maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And I was just asking them, and like we all hit it off really well. So that night, I actually didn't end up getting home till about 1 in the morning because Kale decided he was gonna hit a curb and bust his tire in 5 different places. So how one is talented enough to do something like that is really impressive to me, but he ended up not being able to get it fixed as quickly as he thought, so my friends came to pick me up and they drove me back to my house. And that was pretty much the end of that night and how we met. All I remember was we began talking more and becoming closer. Again, just friends. We were never anything else. We had that friendship where we would like sit on the phone and like send each other stuff on Instagram and just not talk. And we would do that for like an hour or two at night and stuff like that. After about a week or week and a half of us being friends, he started talking to me about him and Sarah's relationship. And he said, you know, I'm not really happy in the relationship. Like, she's crazy, blah, blah, blah. Sarah, if you're watching this, baby, I am so sorry. But he was like, she's crazy and like she's controlling and da 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 da. Well, like if you're not happy, then don't be in the relationship. That's how I see it. That, you know, like I don't see the point in staying in something that you're clearly not happy in. But now, like looking back on it, this is something he does with a lot of females. Like he either, everybody knows they're together, but he claims that, you know, that the person's toxic and that they don't like him, or if nobody knows they're together or not a whole lot of people know about it, he'll tell them that they're not together. Yeah, I figured out that's what he liked to do with females. Like he was a master fucking manipulator. Like he was amazing at it, and he knew how to gaslight too, so that didn't make it much better on our end. In my head, Sarah was this crazy girl who like didn't know how to control her emotions and wasn't good in relationships, and that's what he twisted her out to be, even though I had known Sarah a lot longer than I knew him. But I was easily manipulated at the time. I was also very vulnerable, and I was just liking any kind of attention that I got from a male because I didn't get much, especially after like being in a relationship for like a whole year. Obviously I didn't get male attention outside of the other dude. So he ended up breaking up with her at school one day, and I remember him texting me and him being like, I broke up with Sarah. Damn, like, you know, like, that's crazy. And I was like, how did that happen? He was like, oh, well, I broke up with her in the hallway, and like she gave me a hug, and then she asked if she could get one last kiss and stuff like that, and then I did, and like that's the end of it. And I was like, well, all right, like, cool. In the following weeks, like in the following week or two, we did get a lot closer, and then feelings started to develop. It was coming up on Thanksgiving break, and I was gonna go to my best friend Marisol's, who lived in Goldsboro at the time, for about 3 or 4 days. I think it was around 3 or 4 days that I was going to her house. I had obviously asked her permission beforehand, and I was like, are you okay? Like, if Cottage Cheese comes over to hang out, because, you know, we don't get to see each other very much due to the fact that I don't have a car and he can't drive all the way out to Greenville because he sucks. And she was like, yeah, that's fine. You know, I'm so excited to meet him, blah, blah, blah. Marisol has always been like my number one. She is so down to meet anybody that I date or whatever, or that I have dated. And she'll kind of like tell me off the bat whether she likes them or not, or whether she thinks they're a good fit. Thanksgiving weekend, I ended up I came over and I was staying the night, and he came over as well. And we all spent that whole weekend together. Like, we got Waffle House, we went to the mall, we did some paraphernalia. Mom, don't kill me. And like, it was a really good weekend all in all. Like, I had fun. I thought it was great. Me and Marisol got a fish. We had a kid. It was great. And our kid ended up dying. I thought it was a fun weekend, you know? I felt really comfortable with him and stuff like that. But there was a few things like right off the bat that I noticed that were kind of like icks in a way. And I don't know why they were icks, but like they were. And okay, so first of all, dude had never like smoked in his life, like never smoked a day in his life. So, and he didn't want to. So basically, we hotboxed a barn, and he sat in there while we hotboxed, so he got like a contact high. I'm not even gonna lie to you, he was the most annoying human being when high. Like, annoying, like, dude, I couldn't stand to be around him. And then he was whiny. Oh my god. So like, obviously that was one of my icks. Like, that made like, I didn't like it straight away, and like called me like mean for that. But if you are not chill while, you know, high, then I just genuinely don't want to be around you while I'm in that state, because I get paranoid very, very easy. And if you're freaking and bugging out, I'm gonna bug out. The only thing that was keeping me calm that night was Marisol and Will, because they were stoners, so they knew exactly how to like kind of talk me out of a crazy mindset. And I remember that night we ended up not going to bed until like 6 or 7 in the morning. I had like a blasting headache that morning, and because I had basically stayed up all night, which I figured out that if I don't sleep off my highs, I do get a headache. And I didn't sleep off my high that night, so I had a blasting headache, and he ended up getting me some medicine or whatever, and that was the day I was leaving. I remember my best friend, my friend Tristan was the one who had taken me to Goldsboro because her boyfriend also lived in Goldsboro, but I didn't go back with her. Caleb drove me back because Tristan was going back I think a day or two later than I was. So Caleb drove me back, and you know, everything's cool. I didn't really hear much, like we were still chilling, like it was the same old. Around a week later, I think I had come back to Goldsboro for a little bit, but I wasn't able to see him that specific week. No, I wasn't, because I was only in town for like a day. And that particular week, we had gotten kicked out of my aunt's house, so I was in a rush to get back home from Goldsboro. And when I got back home, we were staying in a hotel, and like this was probably like the suckiest time to have to go through like all of this shit, because I'm staying in a hotel room with 2 beds, and like there's no fucking privacy between me and my family, and like I'm a fucking angsty like 16-year-old, like 15, 16-year-old, so like that doesn't help my case. I was 16 at the time, sorry. And I just liked being alone, and I couldn't really be alone, and then when everything happened, it made it worse. So we ended up being in a hotel, and I remember somebody had texted me, and I can't remember exactly who it was, and they were saying how my cousin Allie was talking to somebody and saying how she felt something about like how her and Cottage Cheese kissed or something like that. She felt so bad and blah 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 blah. And I was like, okay, well I heard this through the grapevine, so I'm gonna go like ask around. So I ended up going to Cottage Cheese, and I was like, did you and Allie kiss? I go to Allie and I was like, hey, did you and Allie kiss? Because this is what people are saying. Or I go to Allie and I'm like, hey, did you and Cottage Cheese kiss? And she was like, no, what the fuck? Like, what? Like, no, I said that me and Johnny almost kissed. Now that I'm looking back on it, Allie, bitch, you are a terrible liar, because that made no sense, and why I believed it is shocking. And again, I knew Cottage Cheese and Allie were close. That didn't bother me because I trusted my cousin. I loved her and I trusted her, and I knew she wouldn't do no wrong to me. So I was kind of like, okay, once they both denied it and they both kind of like let it go, I was like, all right, like, you know, case closed, like nothing to be suspicious of here. I'm not worried about it. They wouldn't do that to me. I want to say everything is good for around a few days, because I remember that was a weekend, that was a Friday, and actually the following Monday was when I found everything out. And I remember this because, ooh, it was a beautiful Monday. It was sunny outside, I was having a good day, I was in my second period class, and it was the end of second period, we were waiting for the bell to ring. Marisol texts me and she goes, you need to cut Cottage Cheese and Allie off now. And I was like, what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she sends me a screenshot of something. Y'all remember that girl in my reacting to pictures video in the orange shirt that I said I didn't like? Well, she had texted this other girl that me and Marisol are friends with and had said something. I have this screenshot still too. I have it, and I know I do because I remember. Okay, well, I don't feel like going through all this shit just to find the fucking thing. I remember the screenshot said, the girl has sent, we're gonna say K and M because that just is easier. So K has sent M and was like, Allie is in third period crying because she says she feels used by Cottage Cheese. And M then sent this to Marisol, and then Marisol sent it to me. And I was like, used? What the fuck is she talking about? And Marisol goes, Emily, they slept together. Ooh, okay. Y'all, if there's one thing about me, I'm fucking crazy. I'm literally crazy. Like, once I get mad, I feel like I have absolutely no sympathy and no remorse for anybody. Like, you piss me off, I don't care. Like, I don't care that you're bleeding. Like, shut up and suck it up. Like, bitch, fuck you. You know, I am a very, like, cruel person when I'm angry, and I don't like that I'm like that, but I feel like it just comes straight out of, like, me being kind of, like, mentally abused for so long and me not knowing really how to, like, handle situations. So immediately, the first thing I do is I text Cottage Cheese, and I'm like, did you have fun sleeping with her? And then I text Allie, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I was like, did you sleep with Cottage Cheese? And she goes, what the fuck, no. I was like, Allie, don't lie to me. I was like, I already have the screenshot. Don't lie to me. Then the minute I say I have the screenshot, I have proof, you know, everything comes crumbling down. You know, she's admitting to everything, and she was like, what can I say? I feel used, blah, 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 blah. And I'm kind of like, we're related, and you did this for what? I asked you a week ago, or not even less than a week ago. I said, I gave you a chance to tell me the truth, and you didn't. I was like, I gave you both a chance to tell me the truth, and you didn't. I was like, you could have told me right then and there what had actually happened. I was like, and you chose to withhold that information from me. What kind of friend does that make you? I was like, what kind of friend does that make him? I was like, are you kidding? And at the time, me and Cottage Cheese were just talking. We had started dating actually a few days after they slept together. We were not actually dating yet, but we were still talking. And me, if we were talking to each other and we were involved with each other, I see it as, you're not single. Call me crazy, but you're not single. I'm not single. I'm not messing with nobody else while I'm talking to you, and I expect the same respect. That's just how I see it. So everybody tried to use that excuse, and I was like, no, because maybe in your head, that's how it works. And if that's how you want to justify your actions, then fine. You can justify them like that. Sorry, we had a little bit of a crisis. Crisis averted, though. We thought Luna was, like, injured badly, but it turns out it was just, like, a small scratch. So, where did I leave off? I think I left off, like, right after I had confronted them on the situation. Basically, after I confronted them, you know, they coughed up everything, and she told me, like, how sorry she was. But, again, I was so mad in that moment that I called her probably just about, like, every name in the book. Like, I called her some really mean names. I don't like that I did that today, but, like, in the moment, I felt like my feelings were almost justified. And, like, how I was feeling about everything was justified. Even though, really and truly, calling somebody the kind of names that I called Allie at that moment, it's not right. No matter what the circumstances, I don't care. Like, it's not right. Like, the way I treated her was just insane. So, no matter how mad you get at somebody, kind of, like, try and remember, words do hurt. Like, they hurt. And I started getting on him. I made this man cry. I was like, okay, I want the full story. I want the full story. So I stayed in Goldsboro for Thanksgiving for around 3 or 4 days. All right. I was there throughout a weekend. So I left on a Sunday. They hooked up that following Tuesday. 2 days after I left Goldsboro, that's when they hooked up. And it was at a basketball game. And I was kind of, like, skeptical, and, like, now that I look back on it, everything makes so much sense because neither of them were texting me back. Both of them were leaving me on open. Neither of them were texting me back. So it was kind of like, I don't know why I didn't piece together in that moment that something was going on, but I just wanted to believe better of both of them, and that's what I chose to do. So about a week goes by after everything happens, and I decide to go up to my old high school, you know, go to a basketball game that's there. And, like, this is how much time had passed because, like, football ended and the basketball season started. So I went to a basketball game, and again, Allie was a cheerleader. Cottage Cheese was not playing any sports at the time, but he was attending that basketball game that night. So I decided to go. And I get there. This is the first time me and Allie are seeing each other since everything had happened. She literally looked at me and, like, started crying, like, sobbing. And she was like, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And, like, by this point, like, I was not all that mad with her anymore because me and her had talked and we had a few good conversations. I kind of got a better understanding of what happened. I'm not saying that it was right in any way or, like, what she did was justified. But when she was manipulated and led to believe that he was completely single and that all he wanted was her, then I can only be mad at her, like, for so much because he gaslit the hell out of everybody. Like, he gaslit her, he gaslit me, he gaslit Sarah, he gaslit everyone, dude. That's what makes this guy, like, so ill, dude. He's a fucking ick. But I was a dumbass. So about a week later, I ended up staying in Goldsboro, and I was supposed to stay with Marisol, but Marisol canceled. She had a lot of things going on in her life, and I understood that. So I ended up staying with Cottage Cheese's best friend. I'm calling him Green Bean. I don't know why. So I ended up staying with Green Bean, and I remember I fell asleep. This dude was, like, so, like, genuine and respectful, and I can remember that very, very well. He was the polar opposite of his fucking friend. Like, polar opposite, because the guy told me, he was like, I'm gonna let you have the bed and like I'll sleep on the floor. Or no, I'll sleep in the rolly chair. And I was like, no, like I can sleep on the floor, like you can have the bed. Like I was trying to be respectful. I remember falling asleep on the bed, and then I woke up the next morning and dude was like a slump in the fucking rolly chair. And I felt so bad, but like it is what it is. And I remember he technically snuck me in, and his parents had no idea I was there, but until the next morning, Cottage Cheese got there, they thought I came with Cottage Cheese. It kind of like all worked out, and like, yeah, so that was kind of like crazy. More ended up happening that day, and I ended up leaving this situation and this particular day not the same girl I used to be. Like, I definitely changed after that. A lot of things changed for me, and he kind of like forced me to do things with him, and in the moment I feel like I thought, you know, like I was consenting and stuff like that, but now looking back on it, I really wasn't, and that's kind of like terrifying. And I'm not the only girl he's done this to. I found out he did it to Allie, and I found out he did it to Sarah. And he's done it to God knows how many other girls, because this is just the kind of person he is. I ended up staying with him after he cheated on me and assaulted me. I stayed with him for about another month, and then I finally ended things. I remember ending things, and we were kind of on and off for a while. Me and Sarah kept going at it. Allie ended up telling Sarah everything that happened and that she slept with him and stuff like that. And I think one thing that peeved me about that whole thing was Sarah held a grudge against me for simply just like being his friend before they broke up, and she had a grudge against me for dating him, but she didn't hold a grudge against Allie for sleeping with him. So I was kind of like upset about that for a while, but I kind of got over myself because I was like, what the fuck am I mad for? Like, there's no reason. So there's one thing I could take away from the situation, is definitely that boys ain't shit. Like, they suck. I genuinely hope that guy gets what he deserves and gets karma, because that's going to be the best thing in the world. I made a TikTok about him. Me and Allie did, actually. Me and Allie made a TikTok about him this past October, and it was like, out of all the girls my ex cheated on me with, because she was not the only girl that he cheated on me with, come to find out, but I was like, out of all the girls that my ex cheated on me with, like, you're the one I love the most. Shortly after I posted that, I was blocked on everything. After I had spent the night in Green Bean's house, I tried to stay with Allie, but I ended up getting in trouble, and my mom found out that I was not where I was supposed to be, where I said I was going to be. Got in trouble, came home with a fat ass hickey on my neck, and somehow managed to hide it. And after that, my mom was kind of threatening to call the cops on everybody because I wasn't. My mom, I love her to death, but homegirl went through a phase where like everything I did, she wanted to call the cops. Like, everything. I could have like plucked a hair out of her head and I'm gonna call the cops. Like, you know, my mom, which she went through a phase, and I feel like that's partly to blame because she worked in the criminal justice system for so long that she saw so many different cases come in and out of that courtroom. I think it really affected the way her brain works sometimes. I'm not gonna lie to you. Love you, Mom, but like, it's the truth. Like, you tried to call the cops on me a lot. My mom was always very forgiving, so I was only grounded for about a week and a half, and she ended up ungrounding me and was like, look, just don't do it again. Like, I want to be able to trust you. Don't do it again. And I was like, all right. So then I ended up going to Goldsboro again a few weeks later, and this is another story that I can remember, and this was like a few weeks before we broke up, actually, and I was at Marisol's house, and I actually did not tell Marisol about this until about a few months ago because I was so uncomfortable with it. But by this point, obviously, he had done what he done to me, and then he had already cheated on me, done what the other thing, and then I go to Marisol's house, and it was the way we were sitting. To say, like, this is me, right? Cottage Cheese, I was sitting where Cottage Cheese was sitting, or I'm sitting where Cottage Cheese was sitting, and then it was me, Will, Marisol. We're all sitting in one corner under one big blanket, and we're talking to her dad. He's standing up in front of us, and Cottage Cheese decides that he's going to try to stick his hand in my pants. And repeatedly, and repeatedly, and repeatedly. And I was getting irritated because not only are we under the same blanket as my best friend and her boyfriend, my best friend who was pregnant at the time, by the way, not only are we under the blanket with them, her father is in the fucking room. They are in the room. And you have the audacity to be doing this, or trying to do this. So like, I slap him away and I'm like, stop it, like, stop. Being the typical narcissistic, manipulative, gaslighty person that he was, he starts crying. He starts crying. And he basically says, like, I feel like you don't want me anymore. I feel like you just don't want anything to do with me. Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, gaslighting the ever-loving shit out of me. Like, literally. And then I was like, I'm sorry. Like, that's not how I want to make you feel, but we're in a room full of people and under the same blanket as them. That makes me a little bit uncomfortable. We're standing at his truck, and then he's like, please just let me put it in one time, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no. Like, no. Like, when I tell you, I had told this dude no so many freaking times, and it seemed like it never got across to him. Like, it never registered in his brain that maybe I just didn't want to sleep with him after what he did. Once we broke up, I never really heard anything out of him again. Like, I heard from him once or twice when me and Cooper got together, and he was like, I'll be there for you guys. Bro, shut up. Nobody gives a fuck. Never heard from him again. It was definitely an experience in itself, like, for sure. That was the story of how I got cheated on with my cousin. This video was definitely, like, a story that I knew I had a story that I wanted to tell eventually, but I never knew which one, and I had completely forgot about this one, which shows that clearly it's never really on my mind. Like I said, I'm completely cool with Allie and Sarah now. They are literally everything to me. I love them. Sarah's been doing her own thing. She's been chilling. Me and Allie keep in touch. I love her to death. We have had a lot of good conversations since this situation happened, and we have talked so much. And I feel like we really got everything straightened out. So, like I said, no hate to those two girls, but all the hate to Cottage Cheese. I'm gonna be straight up, you suck. Like, you suck. You literally have no respect for women and clearly no self-respect. Please drink some water. Eat some veggies. Do something besides eating them fucking salt and vinegar chips and soda. Please. Because, God, you need it. That's the end of today's video, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed this story. I definitely have a few more that I want to tell. If you like today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see more of my face and get notified every single time I post, make sure you hit that little bell. And I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.